Module 5 is the Teen Intervene skill set. The first part of the intervention, kid comes in, and how do you frame this to the kid? How do you get going in the conversation? So I really just like to say, hey, I know you were seeing Shannon or whoever, and you mentioned you'd be willing to talk about this. I'm just here to talk with you about the role that alcohol, marijuana, whatever it is that they're using is having in your life. What are the benefits? If there's any goals you would want to achieve, if there's anything in your life you want to be different, I'm just here to talk with you about that. Everything really highlighting the confidentiality, limits of confidentiality, all of that, and really coming at it from a non-judgmental, open place. So we're really just here to talk about it and what's important to you. Then you administer the questionnaire. So you start with, we're here to have a conversation. Really just want to talk about what this substance role is playing in your life, and would you be willing to fill out this questionnaire that just helps us get an idea of where you're at right now and today. So then the kid fills this out on their own. It's a couple pages, 4 pages, and it's pretty in-depth, and what this questionnaire is assessing is their willingness to change. So it's looking at amount of use, but it's really assessing where are they at on the willingness to change scale, like 1 to 10. Where are they at? But now we get into the meaty part of the session. So this is where we start looking at why is the kid using, what's going on for them. This is really foundational to the intervention. It's something that we'll keep coming back to throughout the rest of the session, but really starting from what is good about using, what does the kid get out of it? You know, what comes up a lot is they want to forget things. They don't want to think about the things that are going on in their life. They want to have an escape. They want to be able to relax and not remember what's going on for them. Also socially, it's something that they do with their friends. It's just common. So you start with the pros. What are you getting out of it? What's good? Kids will really go there with you. And then, okay, and so we've got all this. And is there anything that's not working so well with this? Is there any trouble that using marijuana or drinking alcohol is causing in your life? And you will likely have some sort of idea if they filled out the craft or you glance quickly at the sheet, or if they've talked to the medical provider and you have some sort of information. If you have background, you can feel free to be like, so I heard that you have been suspended or whatever. If they're not really wanting to go there right away, you can help guide that conversation a little bit, bring up some things they might not be thinking about. But for the most part, my experience with them is that they're also really willing to talk about the problems that it's causing. A lot of kids, it'll be causing problems with their parents, or they forget things, but then they're also forgetting to do their homework, and so then they're not doing well in school, and they're not able to stay on top of things as much as they would like, and not able to achieve the goals that they really have for themselves. So that starts to get difficult. So you look at with them, what are the pros, what are the cons, and then you take that a little further, and what are the pros of reducing your use? So what benefit would maybe not smoking before school or not smoking during school? How would that benefit you? Being able to pay attention in class a little more because they really want to be able to raise a grade. But so you look at that, and then what would the cons of reducing be? And so for a lot of kids, what comes up there is social situations. And so, well, I use with my boyfriend, and they would not be cool with me not using with them. Or I use with my friends. What else am I supposed to do? Like hang out by myself? But this is where you really get into individually for the kid, what's going on for them, what is motivating their use, and what would they get out of reducing it some. And so it's just really open, what is their situation. So I mentioned I do individual and group, and in the group, the way I structure it is we do open for, not individually, but open what are pros of use in general. And then what are cons of use. Going through all of the steps, just generally for all people, really having a conversation where they all chime in, all participate. So we get all of those up on big sheets so they can see all of them. And then we take some time to reflect on their own. Okay, now you have the sheets in front of you, and you can take some time to say, what is it true for you? So we have all of these up here that are true for people that you guys have identified and what applies to your own life, and take some time to reflect. So then they'll sit and reflect on their own, and then we have time to share with the group what they have found. There are pros and cons to each. Individual kids will go a little bit deeper, a little bit more quickly. But in the group setting, they really develop the peer support, and it's really important. But one of my favorite things to talk about from the group is that when we got into the goal setting part of a group, you look at, well, what are triggers, what are goals that you want to set, and then so how can we plan to not let the triggers get in our way. And one of the kids was like, well, socially, I have a really hard time when I'm with my friends. I want to use, but I don't really have anybody else to call. Like, all of my friends are using, so I don't really have anyone to reach out to. And the kids, they all were like, well, hey, we could support each other. Let's exchange phone numbers. Let's text each other when we're getting triggered to use. And so they all sat there, got their phones out, plugged each other's phone numbers in, and their goal for that week was, when I feel triggered to use, I'm going to text you. This part of the session takes a long time, especially with the one-on-one. This is really where you're getting into their lives and what's going on for them and getting to know them. And so it takes some time. And then at this point, we look at triggers and cravings. And so there's a worksheet that you look at on there, and you give some education on generally what a trigger is, what a craving is, how that works. And this is where I like to bring in the cognitive behavioral piece and talk about the cognitive triangle, so thoughts, feelings, and behaviors being connected, and helping kids start to identify what's going on for them. What are they thinking? What are they feeling? That is then leading them to want to use. And a lot of times kids are not aware when you first bring this up. They're like, I don't know, I'm with my friends, I'm just using it, or I'm just at home and I just do. And so you're really just helping the kid develop their own awareness, what's going on for them, so they do feel more empowered in their own life and not so thrown around by whatever life's throwing at them. Really helping them grow in that. Really, this calls upon all of the things that we've ever learned to help kids build their own skills to cope instead of use. But this is where we're just talking generally, what are things you could do, not really asking them to make any changes yet, but just talking about how they could make that happen or how other people could make that happen. So at this point in the session, you have gone over pros and cons, triggers and cravings, some little bit of problem solving. Now we're really looking at the client's willingness to change and where they're at. And so this is where you bring out that scoring sheet that you guys had done at the very beginning. It's going to still be on your desk somewhere, wherever you're at. You bring it out and ask if it's okay to go over with them what they had answered on this sheet at this point. And there are some questions that you want to pay particular attention to. So I wrote the numbers up here, 1, 7, 10, 12, 18, and 19, and really go into the questions and talk to them about them. You are going to say, so where are you at now? On a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you to make a change in your life? And there's actually a worksheet that you have the kids look at it and say, okay, where are you at? You marked 5. This means you're about a medium level of willing to change, and which of these statements fits you best. So just having them identify where they're at on the change cycle. So you do that with them. And again, you're just really open to whatever is true for them. And you can bring up whatever they've talked about before and previous to the session. So back into the session, we're getting to the end of what they identify as the end of session 1. And so for, according to the curriculum, it's 60 to 75-minute sessions, 2 of those. But in school, sometimes we're a little more limited, and so that's why it can be broken up over a few more sessions. So you look at, okay, these are the things that you want in your life. This is what could get in the way. And then you break that down into really small, specific goals. What's a trigger? What's an alternative? So, the SMART goals, something small, measurable, attainable within until the next time you see them. I really want, when I'm with a kid, to make sure that a goal that we are talking about is something they can realistically achieve and do by the next time I see them, so that we can reflect on how that went and how they felt about it, what got in the way, what didn't, what worked well. And so this is just a way to, there we go. This is just a way to break that down a little bit more with the kid than the first goals worksheet. So the first goals worksheet is, what do you want to achieve? What's getting in the way? And then this one is, okay, what do you want to achieve? What's getting in the way? And what else can we do? The really more in-depth problem solving. And then we go over what are the advantages of not using drugs? There's a handout to give them, different things that are applicable for all different people. I'll give it to them and say, so these are some of the things that people can get for not using substances. If you want to look at that and highlight what are some of the things that you want to see in your life on this list. And they go through and circle them, and then they get to take that with them. They leave, go on their way, come back next week. We have the next session. So they come back in the next week and we look at, okay, what was your goal? And how did you do? How did you not do? What got in the way? What felt good about whatever you achieved? What are you aware of? And this is, again, it's super individual to each kid. It's going to be completely dependent on what their goal was, what you talked about with them. And in the group setting, this is sort of something that I would do each session. So for the group, I would do one of these handouts each week, but we would end with a goal for each week. And then we would start the next group with, well, how did your goal go? What were things that went well? What were things that didn't work so well? And then getting peer support on that. Peer pressure, decision making, and social support. So you're just looking at what different things could be getting in the way for them, and teaching some skills in the second session. The one that we have included is the social support, so how they can reach out to positive social supports when they are feeling like they need. And that's also why I think the group is helpful, because it's already embedded in your intervention, is that you're developing some more positive social support for them. All right, so you've pretty much gone through then the curriculum with the kid, and so by the end of the second session, really a lot of praise and openness for wherever they're at, wherever they're deciding that they feel they want to be, and leaving it very open is important. If it's a kid who's really identified they are ready to change and make some changes, before they leave, I will have gone with them over, okay, you've done that goal, so what are now goals that you want to really implement in your life, and looking at the triggers and the alternatives and really problem solving with them, so they have a plan as they leave of what they want to do and how they want to make that happen. That's a little more updated after their first one. So I always want to make sure that they can leave with that, and then leaving it open that if they want to come back and check in a few months, I'm still here, we can still do that and see how things are going, how you're feeling about that. Really leaving it very open. And if it's a kid who they're like, I'm not willing to change. Okay, I respect that's where you're at now. And if that ever changes and you want to talk about that more, I'm still here. You can come back anytime. And that has actually happened. Like I said earlier, kids get jobs, things in their life change. Now they're like, okay, I want to make something different. And so just really staying with that open stance, respecting where they're at, where they're coming from, leaving the door open so that they can come whenever they feel ready, and respecting them, then they'll come when they're ready. So then the last part of this intervention is actually a parent-guardian session. From what Teen Intervene says, their research shows that if you have a parent involved, the kid is more likely to make more significant change. And so it is a really important step. You could run into confidentiality issues with kids around this, and how willing they are to have their parent be involved, and talk to them about ways that they can really support. And just going over how the parent can have the conversations in a similar, open, supportive way. So really just giving the parents some education around how to have these conversations, because it's a really hard thing for a parent to do, and just knowing that you're there to support them through that conversation and the kid making that change. I would do it more likely, I think, if a kid is more willing to change. Otherwise, it might not be so productive, but you all have your own practices and your own expertise. So there is also a whole set of handouts that you go over with parents and their kids together around family goals, family changes that they want to make, and benefits that they'll see. And so it's a really useful part, and it's a goal of mine to do more of that this next year. So that is the intervention.
And go on and craft a teen intervene. Woohoo!